Well, hey, good morning to you. I wanted to take a moment and talk about how ammo, the type of ammo that you're using, or really the type of ammo that you just have possession of, could cost you your freedom. It could cost you your freedom depending on where you are in this country. There's two factors going on with ammo right now in this country that we have to be very, very cautious of. Because in many states, you may kind of be at one part of the state and be fine, but let me give you an example. So in Kentucky, for example, you cannot have armor-piercing ammo. You can't have it. You will be in trouble if you have that now, and that's a very free state. One might argue that it's a very pro-Second Amendment state, but the reality is if you have armor-piercing ammo, you could be in a lot of trouble. So you gotta really look at what the state laws are. Now, beyond that, what we're seeing around this country is really the bigger threat, is that depending on the judge, if you wake up in the morning and you put on your sidearm, your concealed carry weapon, you're responsible with it, you have a permit, let's say, like in Missouri, it's a permitless state, but I know other states are that case, but you're doing everything within your power to follow the guidelines within that jurisdiction, and you use that firearm in a self-defense situation, you could find yourself in prison for murder because of the ammo that you chose to use. Now, this is really a big problem because what we're already seeing is there have been some judges in this country who have said because somebody chose a .40 caliber bullet, that they specifically chose a bullet that would do the most damage, that their intentions were not for self-defense, but to cause death of any assailant that might attack them. And they're being sentenced to prison time for murder because they chose .40 caliber. Now, that's a rare exception, but it does happen, and it has happened. A few times just this year it's happened in this country. But the bigger one is depending on the type, like if you're using certain hollow points, like for example, there's a certain type of ammo called zombie killer that most judges, I'm not saying almost any, but most judges are going to say that if you woke up and you put zombie killer in your firearm and then you went out in the world and then used it in a self-defense situation and killed that person, that you knew you were going to kill them in advance, that you chose that in advance. So I'm just going to say that here's how you can avoid all that stuff. I carry a .40. I wouldn't avoid that at all. Just pray for a good judge. But when it comes to the zombie killer, that's made by Hornady. It's a kind of a novelty item. And, just any of those little novelty items that like on the packaging, just like this will cause the most destruction, just try to avoid that because they're saying you're making, because Hornady makes those exact same bullets. But instead of having a green little tip, it's got a red tip. It's just regular self-defense ammo, but it's the same ammo. It just isn't advertised as being so destructive, if that makes sense. So I think it's very important as responsible concealed carriers that you just do the dance a little bit. If you're living in certain cities or counties or states that won't let you use that ammo or this ammo, just pay attention to it and be cautious as you go out there. Obviously, don't pick anything that has packaging that just promotes the most destructive ammo in the world here, because the naiveness of many judges when it comes to firearms and ammo in general, most of them don't know anything about that, can really take you to a terrible place if you got the wrong judge. So just be cautious. If you live in like Kentucky, be cautious owning that armor-piercing ammo. And I just give that as an example. Just know your state laws. Know what it is they're doing and what they're not doing. And just be careful out there. Just be very, very careful in the kind of ammo you're picking. I would just, honestly, I just use something sensible. Use, like regular federal self-defense or regular Hornady self-defense. Just use something that's very, very good ammo. But it's just sensible. The packaging's sensible. I know that seems stupid, and it's unfortunate. This is what we're dealing with, but this is what we're dealing with. This is truly what we're dealing with, And the sad thing is I think most anti-Second Amendment people would prefer that we carried things like revolvers and stuff like that. But, if you're carrying a revolver and they got like a .357 Magnum round in there, they don't understand. They don't understand. Like in their heads, a 9mm would just blow a giant basketball-sized hole in somebody's chest. But a .357 Magnum, that's a sensible round. So, because they don't know, they just simply don't know. So there you go. Just be careful. Just kind of a little shout out. Don't be using the ammo that's clearly raising the eyebrows of judges around this country. And don't use the ammo that your state has deemed illegal, especially in a self-defense situation. So there you go. Any thoughts or insight on any of this? Definitely put it below. Do want to take a moment and say most people watch this channel, they're not subscribers. Click that subscribe button. It greatly increases the algorithm and our ability to get these messages out. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests. Never, ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, love guns.